From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good 9 great locations around the greater Tallahassee area. Don't forget that Sensation still going strong. The Asian slaw, egg roll, hand-breaded, golden fried chicken. It's on a salad or it's on a sandwich. However you like to be your method of delivery for the deliciousness that is Zaxby's. Check it out. Still going strong. Speaking of going strong, Corey Clark transcribing, keeping us afloat on this show and beyond. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
I wonder why they didn't go with sandwiches.
Ooh.
Is that not something they could do? They went with salads. Why not sandwiches?
I'm going to run that up the flagpole. They need to know about this.
And I assume they serve Sprite, so why not Sprite? There's a lot of options, but mainly it's Sprite we can work on. We'll workshop that one. But sandwiches is a way to go, I think. I mean, I think that you corner the market on that. And people, it'll become part of the lexicon. Like, what'd you eat today? Oh, I had a couple sandwiches. And you only have to say where you went because everybody will know.
I wasn't even all that motivated to do a show today. Now I'm reborn. I'm rejuvenated, much like the Mike Norvell offense with Jordan Travis moving forward now. Fantastic. Thanks for the energy, Core. I love it, man.
That's what I do.
I think a lot of the fans love what they saw from the offense against Jacksonville State, hoping it can carry forward. Not much of a surprise when we spoke to Mike Norvell on Monday. He more or less confirmed that Jordan Travis will be the starting quarterback, which is the right move, right? There's nothing else.
I think you go back. I think you go back to Blackman. See what you can get out of him.
He's second on the depth chart. It's Jordan Travis, James Blackman, or Tate Rodemaker, or Chubba Purdy. So
a lot of ors. Obviously, I think obviously Travis is the starter. I think that was even confirmed. I can't remember how he worded it because it's all coach speak, gobbledygook. But it was something about like he's earned the right to be the starting position or something, and where we're going to move forward. I think it was the question about James Blackman, maybe. I don't remember. Or maybe it was a question about Travis being like, all right, is he officially the starter? And he would not just say yes, but he hemmed and hawed his way through it enough to finally give us an answer. But yes, obviously Jordan Travis is the starter. By the time people are listening to this, I'll have a story up on him, I believe. I'm trying to kind of waiting to get a hold of his, as we record this, I'm trying to get a hold of his high school coach.
Eric Kresser, former Marshall Thundering Herd great.
And he played at Florida and then had to transfer when I think it was Doug Johnson. I can't remember who beat him out, but yeah. So he was pretty vocal on Twitter too. In fact, let me get a tweet out while you talk about what Dillingham said about him, if you remember.
I don't remember what Dillingham said about him, but I do remember the question about quarterbacks that you were referencing earlier. It was basically a question of, is there still a plan to get James or Tate involved in the game plan moving forward? And he's like, yeah, we're just gonna keep working. We're gonna keep getting better.
What could possibly be the plan to get Blackman involved? And I'm not trying to, dump on the kid. What could be
the plan to get Tate Rodemaker involved? To get anybody else involved? You've seen 3 quarterbacks play. 2 of them don't belong on the field.
Yeah, and so but it's also like they don't have a skill set that you desperately need. You know what I mean? Like there's always there should always be a plan to get like a mobile guy that can change the game with his legs involved if you have one of those. But a guy that does the throwing not about the same level as your current starter, I don't know why you would have a plan. It's what would the James Blackman package be? Like you can understand Jordan Travis and Chubba Purdy having packages because they're dynamic with their legs. I don't understand exactly what possible situation where you'd be like, yep, get one in there. This is his time.
Hail Mary,
but anyway,
Hail Mary time maybe before end of the half.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. But do you think he'd pull it? You think he'd actually throw the ball? Here's a quote from Eric Kresser. It's a tweet. He's basically taking Travis's huddle film, Huddle HUDL, the highlights from high school,
right.
And he says, please. The tweet is, please show this to all the goofy media guys who don't think this kid can throw the ball as good as anyone else. All you have to do is give him a shot. He has an NFL arm. He is a better thrower now than he was in this video and can throw the football better than most. He also had another tweet where he said just because he's like Lamar Jackson with his legs doesn't mean he can throw the ball. Which, to number one, I'd say, well, let's slow down a little bit on Lamar Jackson. There's nobody that's ever played the position except for maybe Michael Vick, that runs like Lamar Jackson. But So anyway, so he said that, and you're like, okay, well, of course he'd say that. That's his high school coach. He's rooting for his guy. But what we saw on Saturday was certainly good enough. And I think he was so hampered and hamstrung by the previous coaching staffs not having any belief in his ability to throw I guess, or they just didn't believe in him as a quarterback. They had Hornibrook, they had Blackman. Travis was easily the third stringer. They didn't have any packages to get him in the game because they had too many reps to give the other two guys. So when he did get in the game, it was always to run the ball. And I think he threw like 2 or 3 passes last year. I think he had a long completion against Alabama State, but like it was a pass over the middle to the tight end who ran 50 or 60 yards. I think I remember that play. I could have dreamed it though. But he had never really had the ability to throw the ball or shown the ability to throw the ball because he hadn't gotten a chance. And his one throw in the Georgia Tech game went right to the feet. But he was also hurt. And so I think everybody, because of what happened last year and the fact that even when he did play, it was always in a running capacity, people just assumed he could not throw the ball at all. Like he could not throw it. Like I said yesterday, he couldn't get the ball wet if he was in a boat. Well, then so Eric Kressler says that, and you're like, all right, well, that's his high school coach. Now, it's a high school coach that played at a very high level, but it's still a high school coach that has that obviously isn't completely objective. And then Dillingham, when we talked to him on Monday, he brought it up in a laughing tone, like, I don't understand the people that talk about his arm. He can sling it. Those were his exact words. He can really sling it. So again, it's not like he has a pop gun arm. Like he has a better arm than the guy that started a few games for them last year. So, maybe it's the ability to lead or I don't know what Briles and Taggart didn't see. But what we saw on Saturday, it at least gives you hope that, at least gives you knowledge that, okay, he can throw the ball 55 to 60 yards in the air. He can throw it on time, which is the other thing that Dillingham mentioned a couple times, is like how, he didn't say this, he was basically saying this, how refreshing it was to have a quarterback that threw the ball on time. Whether he made a bad throw or not, the thing that encouraged him the most is that they were almost all on time, meaning he threw it when he was supposed to.
He also mentioned how he liked the way that Tate Rodemaker responded kind of to didn't get frazzled. His body language was good. I thought that was a little passive aggressive shot maybe at the other quarterback. But that's just me looking for problems. That's what I do.
I thought while I was on that whole rant about Travis, I thought you were going to look up that completion he had against Alabama State.
63 yards.
Oh man, see, folks, it's unspoken what we do here. It's like
synergy, man. Synergy.
I don't know. It's like Bird and McHale, I guess. Like Bird would know when he was cutting.
Imagine Imagine Kareem. I'm a Lakers guy.
Yeah, probably that. I mean, I just you know where you need to be. I know where you're going to be, and I trust you to get it done. So when you don't talk for a while, I know, okay, he's looking something up. So I'm going to keep this roll going. I'm going to say the same thing over and over again a few different ways. Give my man time to look it up. Who caught it? Who was the 63-yarder too?
Now you're making me do too much work, man. Come on, man.
I thought you just saw it, like you were on the page.
I'm on. I think you and I use different tools to get to our means. Gabe Neighbors.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I was right. It was a tight end.
Yeah.
But I think that ball. I literally think that was like he threw it 8 yards in the air, and Neighbors ran with it for 50-something yards.
Look at you. I don't remember anything about last week.
It's crazy. I thought I remembered. Yeah, I remembered that game. I remembered that play from that game, even though I'd forgotten the game had even been played. But that was what, in Dillingham said it too, the thing that the throw to Helton, he just thought that was such a relief for Travis, who had been hearing so much about his arm. It wasn't a perfect throw, but he threw it where his guy could catch it, and he didn't overthrow him, and he threw it where it ended up being a touchdown, and it wasn't a 5-yard completion. So that throw to Helton, that throw to Terry, at least when Notre Dame is watching film now, they know they can't just run 10 guys at the line of scrimmage, get 10 guys within 5 yards. Because the guy has shown the ability, if you give him a chance, he can make a college football throw.
Yeah, I think the only kind of concern, obviously, is that your margin of error starts kind of getting reduced when you play these better team speed, and But, I mean, if he's getting the ball out on time, he's probably giving his guys a chance to catch it. But, I don't want to diminish anything about what Jordan's done. Shout out to Gene. I think Gene had Jordan Travis ranked the highest on his preseason top 40 out of all of us. Again, man, just it's refreshing. I know that's not the word he said, but, you paraphrase it to a certain extent. We get to see a quarterback now that probably has a decent feel. I think Tate probably has a good feel for what the offense has to be, but it's one thing to be able to, do it in a controlled classroom or, running some reps at practice, and then when you get live action as a 18-year-old, it's a little bit different. So, to have a guy like Jordan that's, been in a few more situations and was able to kind of rise to the occasion. And again, I know it's FCS team, blah, blah, blah. All you Miami fans that still listen to this podcast like a bunch of weirdos, go listen to the Clemson podcast this week. Leave us alone.
Hey! No, we want all the ears we can get, buddy.
Let us enjoy our victory. So, Florida State's offense now ranked 50th in the nation out of 74 teams. So, the climb starts kind of right smack dab, kind of middle-ish.
Just in time for Notre Dame.
Just in time.
It might drop a little bit in the rankings here after this week. I don't expect 40 more points to be put up. I want to see a competent coach team. I want to see a team that has a plan, and I want to see a quarterback that executes that plan. That's all I'm looking for in South Bend. I'm not looking for a W, neither of any of you, and we're not looking for Florida State's offense to go up there and treat it like it's 2003. That's not happening. But move the ball a little bit. Take advantage, find some weaknesses and take advantage, exploit them. See if the running backs still run hard when they're not playing an FCS school. See what Travis looks like against real, legitimate, some NFL caliber defensive players, and go from there. See what you can build on from this week. But I thought it was funny when speaking of Rodemaker real quick, that Dillingham made a point of saying he wasn't benched.
Right.
Which is like, all right, man, we're talking about semantics. He's like, look, he wasn't benched. He was just taken out of the game. All right, well, however you want to phrase it, Coach. He started the game. He got 4 possessions, scored 0 points, scored 6 for the other team, and then he never played again because the backup came in and played. We don't have to call it benched, I guess, because I think they said he was making the point that they had a plan to get Travis the ball, or Travis a couple of series. Once he told them he could play, he was in pregame. He was good enough to go. They did want to have a plan to get him in the game, but it's not a coincidence when he came into the game, and it's certainly not a coincidence that Tate Rodemaker never saw the field again. So whether you want to roll with semantics or not and parse it however you want, Rodemaker started the game. He was the number 1 quarterback on the depth chart. Now he is not. He has been usurped by Jordan Travis.
Do you think we'll be able to tell whether or not this team has improved when they play a team like Notre Dame, or is it going to be kind of too difficult to do like a curve to kind of figure out whether or not this team has grown or gotten better when they go from Jacksonville State to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think honestly, and it's like the goalposts keep getting pushed down, man. Like it's been such an odd year for everyone, obviously, but the fact that you start off with a loss to a bad team, then you have an open date, and then you get crushed by a good team, and then you beat a not great team, and now you have to play a top 10 team. Like, I think you could see some signs, but I think the score isn't going to maybe be indicative of real progress, even if you see it. I think it's going to be kind of in the eye of the beholder. Like, you have to know what you're looking for, and maybe see a few growth areas here and there. Maybe if if the running game can look, I know they're not going to get 260 yards against Notre Dame. Man, imagine that. Imagine if a Florida State team ran for like 300 against Notre Dame. But that's not happening. But if they can put Notre Dame on their heels a little bit, if you can avoid the tackles for loss in the sacks, again, Dillingham brought that up.
Yeah.
He brought that up. We talked about that on Monday, how there were only 2 tackles for loss in the entire game, and that hasn't happened who knows when. The last time that didn't happen. So he and Dillingham brought that up on Monday, saying the biggest difference was they didn't have any long distance plays. They were always on schedule. Even if it was a 3rd and 6, it was manageable. It wasn't 3rd and 13. Or the only time they had it was the possession that Travis didn't lead a touchdown, which was when they had 2 holding penalties. And so they ended up with like a 2nd and 27 and a 3rd and 17. That was the only time they were off schedule. The entire time Travis was in the game. Man, offenses look a lot better when you can do that. So if you see a similar type, even if they're not picking up the 3rd and 4s and the 3rd and 6s, if they don't have a ton of 2nd and 16s or 3rd and 21s or 3rd and 14s, again, it's baby steps and it's a low bar you're trying to clear here, but I think that is progress. That just quit killing yourself with penalties and quit killing yourself with 13 or 15-yard sacks.
Another thing that I found kind of interesting was, Kenny Dillingham talking about how this offense is going to get better, and that's something that, you mentioned obviously before the season even started, like just put a product out there that we're going to see get better kind of week in and week out. And, obviously the overall improvement of this team is what we're going to continue to kind of focus on. But, now that they have a game's worth of sort of footage to look at Jordan and kind of groom him and figure it out, I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to use that to kind of help him grow and help get him better. Because, I still think he's kind of a stopgap, more or less. I still think Chuba probably has more upside, but at least maybe right now is not as ready as Jordan Travis is. But to kind of hear Kenny talk about the fact that, hey, man, we're gonna adjust. We're going to be able to we're still trying to figure out what we can do. And, we'll segue to the defense here a little bit later because that's what Adam Fuller's trying to figure out. But, I mentioned it, obviously, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin, homeboy in Miami, Rhett Lashley, like these guys week 1 get their offense humming. Week 2, Mike Leach did not have his offense humming.
What the heck happened there?
That's somebody tweeted at best. They're like, hey, if you're just joining the Mike Leach bandwagon, beating a national champion and then losing to a lower tier team is pretty much totally on brand. That's what
going for 600 yards passing to like 14 points total against Arkansas. Like the kid from Georgia that came in as the backup threw for as many yards as
Stetson.
Yeah, he's legit. He's my early season Heisman favorite right now. He's crushing it, but he has been good, man. And man, when you see a quarterback that you brought it up with Travis, that just believes, like just goes out there and believes and has is cocky. And when you watch the kid at Georgia, I don't know if anybody has, and I'm not saying go do it. This isn't Wake Up Bulldogs. But if you did watch him, there are times when he is basically standing flat-footed, just looking like he's opened the fridge looking to see what he's going to snack on. And then he whips a ball. He's got a little bit of that gunslinger kind of, I'm a cocky SOB. I'm not worried about a pass. And now, look, he doesn't have to be worried about a pass rush much at Georgia. I mean, there's people don't get near him, which is a nice wall to have, and Florida State quarterbacks can't relate. But Travis, to see a kid that just kind of plays with a little moxie and a little confidence, he is not a finished product. Like you said, I don't even know if he's going to be the quarterback at the end of the year. But when you bring up those quarterbacks, or you bring up those teams, the Lashley and the Costello at Mississippi State, although he wasn't great this week, when you have quarterbacks that believe in themselves and play with confidence, man, it just does wonders for everything. It just does, and it does wonders for the coaches. And you brought it up. You were talking about Dillingham, what he said about they still trying to find themselves.
Find our niche.
He said. Well, he might have said niche. Did he say niche?
I don't know.
Because I say niche.
Okay.
But I think I need to say niche. I think niche is the way I want to go.
Okay.
So, but he did say niche. He said what they do. He's like 1 year. He's like this happens a good bit in their offense. Like the first 2 or 3 games, they're not quite sure what they're going to be good at. Then after 2 or 3 games, they figure it out and they really concentrate on that, and that's what they become. That's their niche, as he said. So just reading the tea leaves there, when you have a mobile quarterback and you're going to put Toafili and Webb or Toafili and Corbin in the backfield with them, well, they're going to be a predominant running team out of the read, and they're going to be doing a lot of things off of that. That's their niche now. He brought up the fact that 1 year, I guess at Memphis, they had a 3,400-yard passer, 3,500-yard passer. The next year they rush for over 3,000 yards. There aren't square pegs into round holes. They will fiddle with the pegs until they fit. And that's good to know that they can adjust not on the fly necessarily, but they're not hard-headed. They can see what works and what doesn't and scrap what doesn't. And you wish they'd have figured that out sooner so they wouldn't have lost to Georgia Tech. They were going to lose to Miami no matter if Mahomes was a quarterback. He changes things. But other than that, they were going to lose to Miami. But I do think that moving forward with Jordan Travis, you feel like the offense is not going to be embarrassing. You feel like they're going to do enough and utilize his talents as long as he can stay healthy. Now that has been an issue. I'm not ripping him like I'm not. I usually make fun of Chubba. Jordan has been an issue. He was hurt a lot in preseason camp. He got hurt in the Miami game. He got hurt in the Florida game last year out of like 5 snaps. This is something that has to get. I don't want to say rectified because that implies that, hey man, just be tougher. But the way he runs the ball, the way his game is played, he is not a huge kid. So he's not Tebow, and he's not Cam Newton. He's not a guy that's going to be delivering a lot of more hits than he takes. So can he absorb this kind of all these tackles over the next 7 or 8 weeks? But if he can, and if he keeps the speed and the quickness and doesn't lose it all because he's ball battered and bruised, you like what this offense can be because you trust they're going to utilize his skills. They're going to make sure that his skill set is utilized, which, they just couldn't do in the first game, man. Travis just wasn't ready. Chubba had been hurt. Rodemaker clearly wasn't ready. And it was a bad. I wonder do you think if Jordan had been available the whole preseason after Chubba got hurt and wasn't hurt himself, do you think they notice like late August, okay, we can't win with this other guy. We've got to tailor our entire offense around Jordan Travis. Do you think they would have been willing to do that?
Wait a minute, if they would have seen more from Jordan in practice, they would have realized that he was like the...
Because I don't think they saw in those scrimmages anything from James Blackman that made them feel great. And if they had seen Jordan Travis, whether he's live or not, making the quicker reads, getting the ball out of his hands quicker, seeing that he could actually throw the ball, and also the dynamic ability he gives you with his legs, do you think they realized then, okay, this is the guy that we have to tailor our offense around him, and if we need to start him against Georgia Tech?
I don't know. I mean, it could be just, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention or what have you. Just maybe they got to the – I still think unless he was not practicing at all, which I guess is a possibility. I mean, he missed the scrimmages, so he wasn't participating in those, that you would have had enough data on James Blackman. And I know you only care about the way he operates your offense, not what he's done in the past. But you still have to factor some of that stuff in. That if you did see the way that Jordan played, and if it looked anything close to the way he was executing the offense in Jacksonville State, then yeah, man, like you'd go to him before the fourth quarter, with 8 minutes left. But I mean, I won't fault them. I mean, at the end of the day, this season is what it kind of is. I mean, Georgia Tech isn't. It's not like they lost the Florida game because they mismanaged the roster. It's not like they lost the. It's Georgia Tech. Every game counts. I mean, I'm not trying to say some of these are throwaways, but. Ultimately in the grand scheme of things, if he's the right guy for now, I mean, I won't hold it against him. I won't take away a demerit, but it's it's fair enough to kind of well, hey man, like you guys could have started this guy week 1.
Yeah, but I think he was just. It's hard to play a kid that missed most of preseason camp, and he was hurt. He wasn't available, and I like to say, Aslan, my favorite ability is availability.
Oh,
you like that one, right?
All right.
So that's the most important ability is availability, and he wasn't available. So they couldn't count on him, and they couldn't use him.
Blackman had a good first drive. He let him do touchdown. He did.
It's fine. But I do think if Jordan, if obviously Jacksonville State's defense isn't as good as Georgia Tech's, but I do think that if Jordan Travis had 7 drives and scored 6 touchdowns. I mean, it was 83%? No, that's more than that. It's like 87%. Even if you cut that in half against Georgia Tech and say he only scores touchdowns on 43% of his drives, well, you still win the game by 2 touchdowns. Like, I do think if Jordan Travis was their quarterback to start the whole season, they're 2-1 right now. And you feel a lot different about this program. And I also think that if he's healthy, that game isn't 52-10. Yeah. I just think he adds, I think they would have scored obviously a few more points. I think maybe the defense plays better knowing they're still in a game. They don't just give up wide open stuff. I think it changes everything if you have a quarterback that you can believe in. That isn't to say I still totally believe in this guy, because I don't. It was Jacksonville State. We'll know a whole lot more about him after these next 2 games, right? Like, I don't care who's quarterbacking this week. It's going to be rough up there. But the next week against North Carolina, you can win that game. If the offense plays well, you can win that game. North Carolina barely beat Boston College and gave up a ton of yards, I think. It only scored like 20-something points. And Howell hasn't been playing incredible. Now, every quarterback plays great against Florida State, so I'm sure he'll light the Noles up. But if you have an offense that can move the ball and score some points, you can certainly beat North Carolina. That is not an enormous Herculean task. So I want to see what he looks like in that game. And then, man, if he looks good, if he looks decent against Notre Dame and actually good against North Carolina, he might be your quarterback. And Chuba can just be put on the back burner. Like, he might be the guy. We'll see. I mean, it's just if Chuba had come in the second quarter against Jacksonville State and scored 6 touchdowns on 7 drives, completed 10 of 13, and run for 40 yards, and the offense took off, we would be thinking, oh my gosh, it's about to take off.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan Travis did do that, and it's his first extensive action. So we can say he's not a freshman, but he's never really gotten to do this at all. So, maybe he is the guy.
I think the book on Boston College, they have a really good defense. But their quarterback was 37 of 56 for 313 yards. They only ran for 40 yards, though, as a team.
He was what? 37 of 56?
Yeah.
For how many yards?
313.
Well, that's not a ton when you're doing it per attempt. They were, I guess, lighting them up.
Yeah.
What did Howell do against them?
14 and 26 for 225, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. 8.7 yards per attempt.
Yeah. All right. Okay. But didn't it come down to the final couple minutes, right? Like North Carolina almost lost that game.
Yeah, Boston College, I think, they're going for a 2-point conversion to tie it, and then North Carolina picked it, ran it back for 2, so that's why.
Oh, that's how it ended up being a 4-point game. Oh, okay. That's funny.
Pretty cool, too. They Boston College put a crying Jordan cutout in the stands. Bold move.
There you go.
Almost worked out. Look into the defense now then, Corey.
Okay.
We wanted this, we weren't saying elite, just, maybe like top 50, right? Be top 50. What if I told you, Corey Clark, that Florida State's defense was inside the top 50 and Florida's defense was in the bottom third of the country? That would sound weird, right? But I wouldn't be lying to you. I would not be lying to you. Florida, 65th in the nation in total defense, surrendering 471 yards per contest. Florida State, 48th in the nation, surrendering 420. And
I would say that
numbers lie.
No, I mean, Florida State's played 2 bad offenses and didn't look really great against either one of them. And then the good offense they played, they looked like a middle school team. At least on third down, they did.
It's third down.
They should just play that all the time. That should be the soundtrack at Florida State's practices to get them just used to hearing it and to maybe actually make a play on third down on both sides of the ball, which they were better at against Jacksonville State. It's just we'll see. Fuller did mention what I talked about ad nauseum the last couple of days about why are you giving up so many easy passes? And he did acknowledge that some of those passes are just too easy. And they've got to figure out a way to get a pass rush and also, maybe scoot up or play a guy closer and quit playing such soft coverage. They're not trying to be a bend but don't break. And quite frankly, they haven't been a bend but don't. They usually they are a bend and break defense. When teams get inside the red zone, they score. So, he did also mention the play in the secondary that wasn't made by Cyrus Fagan, who apparently is no longer part of the team.
Yeah. Good night, sweet prince.
So that was his lasting memory, was that flailing attempt at knocking down a pass against an FCS school. Sometimes it doesn't work out. He might go catch it somewhere else and be a serviceable player at another school. It did not happen here. That again is another veteran that has been exercised from the program, and you hope that all of that helps. All of that helps the locker room. All of that helps the message. All of it helps. If it's going to fall on deaf ears, or if you're going to have issues with guys, and I don't know what Fagan's issue was, other than he wasn't very good at football, at least that we've seen here lately. It just you hope that the message gets louder when stuff like that happens. But going back to Fuller, I don't know, man. He did say that he thought Kane-Doe played well. I didn't realize Marvin only played 12 snaps.
They only played 58 snaps as a defense.
Yeah, and in the second half, it was like a 3-and-out, a 5-and-out, a 3-and-out, interception, and then you're up by 17 points, and you played the backups at the end of the game. So, yeah, he only played 12 snaps, so he should be fresh for Notre Dame. But Fuller did like what he saw out of Kane-Doe. So that was good, I guess. That was really the only guy that and I did too. I thought he played pretty well, and hopefully he just keeps getting better and can be a difference maker. Because if he is a difference maker, this is a dumb thing to say, but if he is a difference maker, that will, folks, make a difference.
Let's go. Okay.
You can have a defensive end that actually you have to account for, and maybe send an extra guy to block, or maybe he actually makes plays and gets sacks. So that would be nice to see. But overall, you can tell there's still, he said that he was asked about playing so many guys, and he's like, it's not what they're trying to do. They don't want that big a rotation, but they still have so many question marks at so many positions that guys haven't really taken haven't taken the role and run with it, that they're essentially still trying out guys in the middle of the games to see how they play. Some part of that is because Najruddin's hurt, Travis Jay is hurt, so you have to work guys out at safety, and you have to work guys in at linebacker, and you kind of go for there. I know Dix and Lundy are in his plans a lot to play moving forward, but they got to play better. At least Dix has to play much better than he did Saturday against Jacksonville State.
Yeah, defensively, very interesting, right? They played 31 guys, 58 snaps for on defense. Asante with 41, only guy that played more than 35. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas or whatever the line goes, and it's almost wasting
Which
time.
is some nonsense, by the way. Can you imagine getting candy and nuts for Christmas?
People get socks. People always like, yeah, my grandma got me socks this year. I'm like, what?
I mean, you can get that as a grandparents are a wild card, man. They might get you. They might get a 12-year-old an electric shaver. You never know what's coming from them. But you can't say. I mean, that's such a dumb saying. What nuts? No, I'm not saying the way you said it in the context makes sense. I'm just saying it's crazy that it was a saying to begin with, because nobody has a Merry Christmas with nuts.
Well, if my aunt had, she'd be my uncle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You could do that one too.
That's better. There you go. That's better. I like that one.
I think offensively, we would just see such a more polished product right now. I don't know how much it would help the defense, but those 15, the 12 spring practices they missed and the Garnet and Gold game that they missed, because that's what Adam Fuller was saying. My question was like, hey, man, you only had 58 snaps on defense. You played all these dudes. Are you saving them, or are you just really trying to overthink this almost in specializing? He's like, Aslan, I'm not. We don't know what we have. They were doing live auditions for playing time at Florida State University on Saturdays in games. And I just, golly, you kind of wonder. Again, I think the offense probably could pull that explanation with a lot more credibility at this point than the defense. But I think those 12 practices or whatever they missed out on in a spring game probably gives them a good sense of who they can, use in the Georgia Tech game. And then maybe by the time they are here, they kind of have an idea, but they don't right now. And then speaking of John Papuch, it's I feel bad for them trotting him out almost, because it's hey, what happened with your kicker? And it's hey, I don't know, man. Kickers are kickers. He kicked the ball wrong. John Papuch he's got, I don't know what he's going to do defensive ends. He's got who he's got. At least Adam Fuller can mix and match some of these guys on the back seven like he was talking about. And linebacker, at least, Lundy and Dix, you can, if the play comes to them, if they've got to chase it down and diagnose it, I don't know how well they're going to be able to do that. But if the play comes at them, they're physical enough young men that I think they'll be able to make a tackle. They might be able to do a bit of a flash play. The man, the defensive ends, there's nobody coming to bail them out. There's no help. But I don't know if I want to go into that or just more along the lines of this defense still not even knowing really who they can trust, who's the 13 or 15 players they can just kind of cycle in and out.
Yeah, when he was saying that, they probably played 22, 25 guys in the real course of the game, when it mattered. Not just there at the end. I bet they'd played 25 guys.
They played 30. They played 31 players. All of them had double-digit snaps, except for two.
So I bet that means they played 28 or 29 guys when the game was still on the line. Yeah. Which, that old saying about if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Buddy, if you have 29 defenders out there, you don't have a whole lot of good defenders right now.
You ain't got 11.
You don't even have 11. You haven't figured out who you need, and I don't fault them for it. you've got to figure out guys that can play. And this is a goofy season. You're not going to give away games from it, but you've got to figure out who your linebackers are for the future. You got to figure out who your DNs are. And right now it doesn't look great at that spot. And at defensive tackle, quite frankly, if a couple guys leave, you don't know. Marvin theoretically could come back and play again.
Yeah.
Maybe
run it back.
Yeah, run it back. He'll be a doctor by the time he gets out of here. He can just keep staying. I think that's concerning, but it's expected, right? Like, when you have some injuries to some guys that you were counting on, and then some other guys just aren't very good, you got to throw young guys in there, and you got to see what you got, and you've just got to. You're going to take some lumps. No matter what they do this year, they're going to take some lumps on that side of the ball. It's the fact of life. And they got another really good offense. They got to play two really good offenses in a row here with two pretty darn good quarterbacks. One who's definitely an NFL guy. I don't know if Ian Book's an NFL guy, but Ian Book is a very solid college quarterback.
Yeah.
So you're in trouble these next 2 weeks with the quarterbacks you're facing. But you got to figure out a way to get some pressure on them, man. You just got to. And that's what Papuchis was asked. That's what Fuller's been asked. And they're trying. I think, you got to run Griffiths out there occasionally. You got to run Fuller out there occasionally. And the more reps they get, theoretically, the better they will be. So hopefully they can build some confidence and actually have some success and get better. Again, you want to see that by November. You're not stopping either one of these offenses coming in here that you're playing the next 2 weeks. You can still win the Carolina game, but you're not going to beat them 20-13. You're going to have to figure out a way to score more than them to win that game. But maybe by November, it'll be a competent-looking defense, and we'll see some real strides. Because right now, it's throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall to see if anything looks like it might stick. I guess the second half is something to build on. They were better. They did. I do think, like he said, I think they changed the line of scrimmage a few times with their push. That's to be expected against a tired and overmatched team. We'll see what they look like in the third quarter against Notre Dame, because that's a completely different game. But they'll probably learn more from that game, right? Don't you think they might even take Notre Dame, and that might be better for them than what happened against Jacksonville State?
Yeah, man, because this is Notre Dame is indicative of kind of the remaining schedule to a certain degree, and at least where they want to be. That's a real determining factor of if they have the horses to kind of compete with the upper echelon in this conference. I'm excited. I'm not going to put any money on Notre Dame on Florida State to pull off like an upset. I think somebody said like Notre Dame was a 20-point favorite, 20.5. That seems really high, but
does it really? So if you were going to bet. If you had to bet, if I said, Aslan, you have to bet on this line.
Yeah.
Who would you take?
Notre Dame's got some. I don't know if they're the whole COVID issue. They haven't played a game in a few weeks, and
apparently they have. I retweeted Bruce Feldman on Monday night. They have 7 players in quarantine and 4 more players in isolation, I think.
Okay.
So I don't think we know who. It's Notre Dame. They're not going to tell us who they are. We'll find out on Saturday. But yeah, that's Florida State's best bet. That they're starting 11 on defense. Just we don't want them to have COVID, but they all know somebody that has COVID, and so they have to quarantine.
But yeah, it could be it could be 35-21 in the fourth quarter, and it's like Florida State's driving to cut it to a 1-possession game, and they get sacked and turn it over, throw a pick, or there's a fumble, and then Notre Dame gets one more touchdown, and then that's a wrap.
If that happens, I think people will be all aboard the Mike Norvell train.
Oh yeah.
If they're down by 14 points in the fourth quarter and are actually in the game, because gosh darn it, man, we've seen it every time in the last 2.5 years that they played any team that's top 10-ish with a pulse, they get obliterated. And the game is over in the first quarter every time. And so that's what I'm looking for. Can you keep it? Will it be a game at halftime? Will it be a game in the third quarter? Will those starters have to play in the fourth quarter? Because that hasn't happened. I don't know. The Michigan game, the Alabama game, maybe that was the last time they played somebody really good and didn't get obliterated. I guess the Clemson game. Yeah, Clemson of 17. Yeah. So that is in the Miami. I don't even think Miami was good in 18. They blew that game. But that's what's been so bothersome is that anytime they play a team like this is why I'm saying if I was a gambling person, and I'm not, I would hammer Notre Dame. Until Florida State proves that it can play within 28 or 35 points of these good teams, I would certainly not ever bet on them to do it. I would not bet on them to cover. I don't know how high the line would be that I would bet on them. Maybe 35? Because they just don't compete. They get out there, something goes wrong immediately, mainly because they're not as good as the other team. And instead of fighting, they capitulate. And it snowballs. So number one, I want to see if they'll compete and make it a game, not just let an offense that's talented go up and down and up and down and up and down the field and you don't make any plays ever. But then also on the other side of the ball, will they be able to match a score with a score? Will their quarterback keep his poise? Will the offense keep its poise? Will Terry play apparently as hard as he did against Jacksonville State? Will he play that hard against Notre Dame, with guys in his face, not scared to death of them? Will he do that? Will he make plays? That's what I want to see, man. Those are the steps you want to see. Not a W, because that's not happening. If they beat Notre Dame, heavens to Betsy, man, they might have a parade. Norvell might just drive around Tallahassee like Trump did coming out of the hospital with his mask on, just waving to people. That would be because it's just not going to happen. But if they can keep it close, if they can play competitively and be in a game in the second half, man, that's a great step. And again, that's ridiculous to say on a Florida State podcast, but that's where we are.
That's probably a good thing to go out on, but I wanted to kind of mention one last thing about the defense here. Looking at the comments, like on Warchant and on YouTube, if you're listening to us on YouTube, you get the thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, all that kind of good stuff. This fan base, however split they might be on the offense after the JSU game, like nobody is buying the defense at all. And maybe, hopefully, we change some minds with the kind of the way we talked about some things. But there was a comment that Adam Fuller made that I saw a longtime subscriber reply to that they didn't like, about how on first down, if teams were throwing, it's either going to be like a 5-yard gain or an incomplete pass. And I guess the subscriber was thinking that's kind of concerning. I don't know, does that sound like you're kind of accepting, like you're bending to the will of the offense with that kind of mindset?
It's funny because that one caught my ear too. I didn't like that either. Because then, okay, well then are you just saying that you're going to give 5 or 6? And number one, it's always more than 5 yards. It's usually 7 or 8. But are you just saying that, okay, if you're going to throw on first down against this and get the ball to your hands quickly, we can't stop it? So we hope you throw a bad pass because we're not going to be there to defend it? Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not saying he doesn't belong here. He might end up being a great defensive coordinator, but that to me screams of AAC football. Like, we're going to be in a shootout. Let's just make them march their way down the field instead of giving up an 80-yard play. Let's keep them in front and make it a 7-yard completion. Well, buddy, at this level, we saw it. Miami 7-yarded you to death. It's not like they hit a bunch of huge pass plays. They hit like 2. I think Derek King averaged like 6 yards an attempt or 7 yards an attempt, a really low number. It didn't matter. They still marched down the field. If you're going to make it that easy for them, anybody at this level in this conference, they will go down the field and score. It's going to happen. The only reason Georgia Tech didn't do it is because they had a freshman that threw a couple inexplicable interceptions. Other than that, they did the same thing. And moving forward, NC State apparently has found a quarterback. The Pitt guy isn't very good, but he's experienced. You know what you got at Clemson. You know what you got at Notre Dame. You know what you got with North Carolina. All these guys, if you give them 7-yard completions, just run of the mill on first down. Hey, what are you going to do? Yeah, you're going to lose 50 to. You're going to give up 50 points because those guys will do that all the way down the field. So I don't really like that. I get what he's saying. I think he was answering it in the vein of a question about pass rush. Basically saying when a team throws on first down, it's usually he gets it out of his hands within 3 seconds, so you don't have time to get a pass rush there typically, and you just got to live with keeping it in front. It's going to be a 5-yard completion. They're not going to take a lot of shots downfield on first down, like slowly developing plays because they feel like the Florida State pass rush or the defensive line will get to them. So they're going to throw something quick, get it out of their hands quick. Well, okay, you've seen that now for 3 games. How about figuring out a way to make that harder? That's all. Just make it harder. It's the thing that bothered me the most about Virginia last year. Just like I know you don't want to give up a huge play, but you literally were giving them throws that a middle school quarterback could make. Just 8 yards, middle of the field, big tight end. Let me throw it to him. Play so far off. Okay, another 8 yards. And it did not work. They went and scored 3 straight touchdowns, and he lost the game. That just giving up complete. And look, he's handcuffed a little bit because he doesn't have a great pass rush. We don't know what he has really anywhere else other than Asante Samuel is good. So, I get that he's hamstrung a little bit, and he's still trying to figure out his defense. But yes, I hope moving forward, Florida State's defense isn't just about giving up if they get 5 or 7 yards on a first down throw. I understand that it's 2020 and all teams throw for a lot of yards, but that kind of mindset of just I hope that's not permeating. I don't know that it is. It might have just been a slip of the tongue or just the way you answered the question, just a fact of life. But you hope that mindset it doesn't permeate that side of the ball where, like, look, man, if they get 7 yards, they get 7 yards. But don't make it a 50-yard touchdown. How about they get 0 yards? How about you intercept a pass or deflect it at the line? Can you put your hands up and bat a ball in the air? Is that possible? Kane Doe's 7'9". J-Rob, he looks like a power forward. How about jumping up and knocking a ball down occasionally? Anyway, I'm done. I really thought I got through the whole show, Aslan, with being pretty positive.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, Mike Norvell goes back and listens or logs on to War Chant and sees your synopsis and live transcriptions. Like, hey, Adam, did you, is that what we're doing? I didn't tell you to do that. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, and also, Adam, they always get more than 5 yards.
Yeah.
If you can hold them to 5, hey, buddy, I'll take 2nd and 5 all day. It's the 2nd and 1s that I don't like. So let's keep them to 2nd and 5 and a little bit longer.
All right, that's a wrap on today's show. A shout-out, I was pulling up iTunes. Our last 2 ratings and reviews on iTunes are both 5-star reviews. We appreciate it. W Hall 45 and Noel 6, or 6 Mike 88. They left it on Friday. W Hall 45 says that I do a great job doing the hard work day in, day out. Corey is okay also, LOL. On a serious note, y'all guys are awesome. Keep it up. And then 6 Mike 88, apparently he's Noel 6, our subscriber. Love the show, guys. You do a great job. Love the humor and format of the show. Keep it up. Go Noel. So, yeah, do that, everybody. Do one of those. Those are nice.
Hey, also, we appreciate that, as always. Also, Lawrence Toafili was the ACC Rookie of the Week.
Let's go.
Which anytime you almost run for 100 yards against an FCS school, buddy, you better be winning that award. Sorry, that's just me being cynical. I'm just kidding. He really was good. He has been good. But also, well wishes to Bobby Bowden, who it was reported on Monday by the great Jim Henry from the Democrat that he has contracted COVID, tested positive for COVID. So keep him in your thoughts. Keep him in your prayers if you pray. Because he is 90 years old, and that's a scary illness for anyone, but certainly someone of that age. So we are hoping everything comes out on the other side, and we're all good there. But that's keep him in your thoughts. Yeah, well done. I didn't mean to omit that from the show. I'm glad you brought that up, Corey. Also, I guess part of the tweet from Jim Henry was that Coach says that he does feel fine. So that's encouraging as well. So, but good job, Corey. Thank you. See, yeah, I might do all the hard work, but you do all the smart stuff. I would have forgot about that. I tried to, buddy. I tried to.
Shame on me. Hey, let's do a live show later today. You down for that, Corey?
I am. Can't wait. It's got to be after the Braves game, though.
Look at you, big back in the saddle, king of the castle.
Right, that's right.
All right, check out warchant.com. We'll post the link for our live call-in show, 850-805-5911. That's the call-in number, and we'll talk to you later on this day. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Order ahead, drive-thru, or get it delivered.